In the heart of the American continent, where the great mountain spines of the earth converge and the sky itself seems closer to the ground, lies a nation of impossible contrasts. Here snow-capped volcanoes rise above tropical valleys. Ancient rainforests give way to desert plateaus. Two oceans meet at either end of a single country, each with its own light, its own color, its own mood. The air in the highlands is cool and thin and smells of pine and wood smoke. In the south it is thick and green, alive with the sound of insects and rain. And over all of it, watching in eternal silence, stands Citlal-Tepetl, the Star Mountain, its glacial summit rising 5,636 meters above the earth, glowing faintly in the darkness long after the rest of the world has gone to sleep. This is a place shaped by fire and stone, by 3,000 years of civilizations layered one upon the other like the strata of the land itself. A place where 68 indigenous languages are still spoken, where the ancient word for communal labor, tequio, still moves neighbors into the fields together at harvest time, and where the dead are welcomed home once a year with marigolds and candlelight and the smell of copal smoke. This is Mexico, a nation of 130 million souls, each one living at the intersection of the ancient and the present, the inherited and the imagined, the world that was and the world still being made. To look beyond the surface, beyond the noise, beyond the myth, is to discover a life of profound depth and enduring beauty. This is a story not of a destination, but of a home. This is the story of life in the heart of the ancient world. Life in Mexico is governed by a rhythm that does not belong to the clock. It belongs to something older, to the smell of masa on a hot comal before the sun is fully risen, to the sound of a vendor's call carrying down a cobblestone street, to the particular quality of morning light as it falls through the doorway of a house that has stood in the same spot for 100 years. The day often begins at the tortilleria. In towns and neighborhoods across the country, these small storefronts open before dawn, and by 6 in the morning, the sound of the machine and the scent of fresh corn fill the street. People arrive with their cloth-wrapped bundles, exchanging a few quiet words with the woman behind the counter, and leave with tortillas still warm enough to steam the morning air. It is not merely an errand. It is the first act of belonging to a place. The mercado and the tianguis, the permanent public market, and the ancient open-air street market, whose name descends directly from the Nahuatl word tianquisli, are the social lungs of Mexican daily life. The tianguis, a pre-Hispanic tradition still woven into the week of almost every Mexican city and village, transforms ordinary streets into a dense, bright, almost overwhelming world of color and commerce. Mountains of ripe avocados and chilies and mangoes. The bubbling copper pots of carnitas, the flour sellers, the cheese wrapped in cloth, and everywhere, the easy conversational rhythm between buyers and their marchantes, the trusted vendors to whom they return, week after week, year after year, and who know their preferences before they ask. The main meal of the day arrives in the early afternoon, not at night. The comida, eaten around 2 o'clock, is the anchor of the day, a long, unhurried pause in which families come home and the table becomes the center of the world. Soup, rice, beans, a main plate, strong coffee afterward. The frantic urgency of the modern world does not belong here, at this table, in this light, at this hour. Life in Mexico moves at a human pace, rooted in ceremony, resistant to rush. The family unit is the cornerstone of Mexican society, not the nuclear family of 2 adults and a door that closes, but something wider, more generous, more deliberately constructed. Grandparents, parents, children, aunts and uncles, cousins extending outward in every direction. More than 8 in 10 Mexicans live in shared households, under the same roof as kin, in an arrangement that is part economic necessity and part profound cultural conviction. The poet Octavio Paz wrote that the Mexican family is the one place where the individual is never truly alone. Decades later, that remains true. And yet the family in Mexico does not end with blood. It is extended deliberately, ritually, through one of the most enduring social institutions in the country, compadrazgo. Through baptism, through the quinceañera, through confirmation and marriage, and every significant crossing of a life's threshold, families select padrinos and madrinas, godparents, who take on genuine obligation and genuine love. The bond formed is not merely symbolic. The parents of a child and their child's godparents become compadres to one another, co-parents, bound by a web of mutual support that cuts across social class, across distance, across the decades. Many Mexicans will tell you they feel closer to their compadres than to their own siblings. This expansive understanding of belonging expresses itself in the culture of convivencia, the act of being together, simply and without agenda. A Sunday afternoon that stretches past dark, plastic chairs brought out to the sidewalk, children weaving between the legs of adults, a pot of beans on the stove that no one planned but everyone shares. Convivencia is not a scheduled event. It is a refusal to let the day pass without the warmth of other people. In the small towns and villages, in the cobblestone streets of Pátzcuaro, in the hillside neighborhoods of Guanajuato, in the plazas of 1,000 unnamed towns where a church bell marks the hours, this closeness is not nostalgia. It is the active, daily architecture of a life. The community looks after its own. It always has. Tradition in Mexico is not a relic of the past preserved under glass. It is a living, breathing, and integral part of the present, woven into the smell of the air, the rhythm of the calendar, the way a family arranges flowers on a table in the first days of November. Of all Mexico's traditions, none runs deeper than Día de Muertos. On the 1st and 2nd of November, families across the country build their ofrendas, altars stacked with photographs, candles, pan de muerto, and the food, and objects that their departed loved in life. And everywhere, in cascading garlands and scattered petals, the cempasúchil, the marigold. Its name comes from the Nahuatl words for 20 and flower, the flower of 20 petals, and its sharp, distinctive scent is said to carry the spirits of the dead back to the world of the living, getting them home along a river of gold and orange through the darkness. This is not mourning. It is reunion. It is the radical Mexican understanding that death is not a wall but a door, and that the dead remain, in some essential way, present. UNESCO recognized this celebration as an intangible cultural heritage of humanity in 2008, not because it was endangered, but because it was extraordinary. And then there is the music. Mariachi, born in the 18th century from the rural communities of Jalisco, from the town of Cocula, which calls itself proudly La Cuna del Mariachi, the cradle of mariachi, is the sound of Mexico when it wants to feel itself fully. Its ensemble of violins, trumpets, vihuela, and deep-throated guitarón carries within it the full emotional range of a nation, the joy of a wedding, the ache of a love lost, the pride of a homeland. In 2011, UNESCO added mariachi to its list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity. It was recognition of something Mexicans had always known, that this music does not merely accompany life, it declares it. In Oaxaca each July, the ancient Zapotec festival of the Guelaguetza, whose name means reciprocal exchange of gifts and services, fills the hilltop amphitheater above the city with costumed dancers representing the state's 16 indigenous ethnic groups, each carrying their own language, their own dress, their own story. There are no instruments for the chain of cultural expressions that flow like water from the stage, only bodies, voices, and thousands of years of inheritance moving together in a single afternoon. To witness, it is to understand that Mexico's cultural identity is not a single thread, but an intricate, luminous weave, and that every generation has added to it without unraveling what came before. The land is the lifeblood of Mexico, not as metaphor, as literal truth. For thousands of years, the economic and spiritual logic of this country has been rooted in the soil. In the ancient farming system, the Nahuatl-speaking peoples called the milpa, a polyculture of corn, beans, and squash planted together in the same field, each one sustaining the others. The tall corn stalks hold the climbing beans toward the light. The beans fix nitrogen back into the earth. The broad squash leaves shade the ground, holding moisture and keeping weeds at bay. 3 plants, 1 field, 1 complete cycle of nourishment. The milpa is not merely an agricultural technique. It is a philosophy of interdependence, of balance, of refusing to take from the land without giving something back. In the highlands of Oaxaca, in the Yucatán, in the mountain communities of Chiapas and Michoacán, smallholder farmers still work their milpas by hand, as their grandparents did. The economy of Mexico, however, is a story of 2 realities held in permanent tension. The country is a manufacturing powerhouse, Over three-quarters of its exports are manufactured goods, from automobiles to electronics to medical equipment, produced in factories that line the northern border and anchor the industrial cities of Monterrey, Guadalajara, and Tijuana. The economy is deeply, structurally bound to its neighbor to the north, with more than 80% of all exports flowing into the United States. And yet for millions of Mexican families, particularly in rural communities, the most significant income does not come from factories or fields at all. It arrives each month in a wire transfer from a son in Chicago or a daughter in Los Angeles. Remittances, money sent home by Mexicans living abroad, surpassed $63 billion in a single year, outstripping tourism, foreign investment, and agricultural exports combined to become the country's single largest source of foreign income. Each transfer is, in its way, a form of tequio, labor given for the good of those left behind, across whatever distance separates them. Mexico's food is a direct and honest reflection of its landscape, its history, and its deepest understanding of what it means to be alive. In 2010, UNESCO inscribed traditional Mexican cuisine on the representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity, the first national cuisine in the Americas to receive that recognition, not for its restaurants. For its system, the milpa fields, the chinampas floating in the ancient lake beds on the edges of Mexico City, the stone metate on which dried corn is ground into masa, the comal on which tortillas have been cooked for 10,000 years. Everything begins with corn, not corn as ingredient, but corn as cosmology. The ancient Nahuatl-speaking peoples described themselves as creatures made of maize dough, shaped from the same substance they planted, tended, and harvested. Nixtamalization, the process of soaking dried kernels in an alkaline lime solution before grinding, unlocks nutrients the raw grain withholds and transforms it into the masa from which tortillas, tamales, and pozole are made. It is a chemical act, and a sacred one. The woman pressing a tortilla by hand on a morning comal is performing something older than writing. The regional variation of Mexican food is staggering in its depth. In Oaxaca, the cuisine turns on its 7 classic moles: Negro, Rojo, Coloradito, Amarillo, Verde, Chichilo, Manchamantal, each built from a different constellation of chilies, spices, seeds, and sometimes chocolate, each requiring hours and sometimes days of patient preparation. In the Yucatán, cochinita pibil, pork marinated in earthy achiote paste and bitter Seville orange juice, wrapped in banana leaves and slow-cooked in an underground pit, carries the memory of Mayan ceremony in every bite. In Puebla, chilies en nogada appear only in late summer, when all their ingredients, the stuffed poblano chili, the walnut cream sauce, the jewel-red pomegranate seeds, the fresh parsley, can be sourced from the same season in the same region, green and white and red, the colors of the flag on a plate. But at its core, Mexico's food culture remains rooted in the home, a shared table, hands that know the recipe without a book. The truest taste of Mexico is always the one made by someone who has made it 1,000 times before. To truly understand Mexico is to understand its nature, a landscape so varied, so extreme in its contrasts, that it reads not as a single country, but as a continent folded into itself. From the Sonoran Desert in the north, where the land is bone white and the silence absolute, to the dripping cloud forests of Chiapas, where the air is so wet it seems to breathe, Mexico holds within its borders almost every ecosystem on Earth. In the northwestern state of Chihuahua, the Barrancas del Cobre, the Copper Canyon, cuts a system of 6 interconnected gorges through the Sierra Madre Occidental, a network so vast it dwarfs the Grand Canyon in both area and depth. This is the homeland of the Raramuri people, who have run these canyon trails barefoot for centuries, whose name for themselves means simply the running people. To stand at the rim of the Barrancas del Cobre as the light shifts and the canyon walls change color from ochre to copper to violet is to feel the scale of geological time pressing gently against the chest. In the pine and oyamel fir forests of Michoacán, every winter brings one of the most staggering spectacles in the natural world. Tens of millions of monarch butterflies, having traveled more than 4,000 kilometers from the forests of Canada and the northern United States, descend upon the same trees, year after year, in a migration whose navigational logic still humbles scientists. The trees turn orange and black and seem to tremble. When millions of wings beat at once, witnesses describe the sound as soft rain. The Monarch Butterfly Biosphere Reserve has been a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 2008. Beneath the Yucatán Peninsula lies a different kind of wonder entirely. The Maya called them Dizonot, deep things, sacred wells, and they dot the limestone shelf of the peninsula in numbers ranging from 6 to 10,000, the greatest concentration of sinkholes on Earth. Their formation traces back 66 million years, to the moment the Chicxulub asteroid shattered the bedrock and created the fractures through which the underground rivers now run. The Maya believed cenotes were doorways to Xibalba, their underworld. To float in the crystalline blue darkness of one, shafts of light descending through the collapsed roof, surrounded by stalactites older than memory, is to understand exactly why. And in Chiapas, the Grijalva River has spent 35 million years carving the Cañón del Sumidero, its walls now rising 1,000 meters above the water, sheer and green and absolute, a place so dramatic it defines the very coat of arms of the state. For all its apparent layering of the ancient and the traditional, Mexico is a remarkably modern and well-connected society. This is a country of more than 100 million internet users, over 80% of the population, served by a fiber optic network that has expanded faster in the past decade than almost anywhere in Latin America. A country where Guadalajara, the colonial city of Talavera tiles and mariachi serenades, has quietly become the region's leading technology hub, earning the nickname Mexico's Silicon Valley, attracting the semiconductor factories, software companies, and innovation campuses of a forward-looking industrial economy. The infrastructure of daily movement is vast and varied. Mexico City's metro system, one of the largest in the Americas, carries millions of passengers daily through 12 lines beneath a metropolis of more than 21 million people, connecting neighborhoods that span the full spectrum of the country's social geography. On the surface, an expressway network reaches between the major cities of the Central Plateau. In the south, the Maya train, the Tren Maya, has drawn its rails through the Yucatán Peninsula for the first time, connecting ancient ruins and coastal towns by rail. The universities anchor the modern project. The campus of the UNAM, the Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Mexico, the largest university in Latin America, sits in southern Mexico City, its buildings covered in the murals of Diego Rivera, David Alfaro Siqueiros, and Juan O'Gorman, earning it a designation as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2007. Here tens of thousands of students study engineering, medicine, law, art, the full breadth of human inquiry, on a campus that is itself a monument to the conviction that knowledge and beauty are not separate things, but one. This is the defining paradox of Mexican life, held with a kind of quiet confidence, that the ancient and the modern are not opposites to be reconciled, but companions that have always walked the same road. For the young people of Mexico, growing up here offers a unique and complex weave of deep cultural rootedness and relentless pressure to look elsewhere. Mexico is a young country in the most literal sense. Its median age is 30 years, and the generations coming of age now are the most formally educated in the nation's history. Literacy has climbed steadily. Universities have multiplied. The UNAM alone enrolls hundreds of thousands of students across its campuses, producing engineers, artists, scientists, doctors, and philosophers in numbers that would have been unimaginable a generation ago. And yet the tensions are real. The gap between what education promises and what the economy can deliver, particularly outside the major cities, is one of the defining pressures of Mexican life. In rural communities, in the mountain towns of Oaxaca and Guerrero, in the dispersed villages of the Huasteca, a young person with ambition and a degree confronts limited pathways. The pull northward, to Mexico City, to Guadalajara, to Monterrey, or across the border entirely, is not a betrayal of home. It is a logical response to constraint. But the connection to home remains, for most, unbreakable. The young professional working in a Guadalajara technology park still goes back to her parents' village for the patron saint festival every August. The engineer in Monterrey still sends money home every month, still answers his grandmother's calls, still knows that the place he came from is the truest part of who he is. The great challenge for Mexico in the generation ahead is to build enough of what young people need, enough opportunity, enough dignity, enough possibility, that the choice to stay becomes something more than sacrifice. It is a challenge the country has begun, with characteristic stubbornness, to take seriously. The rhythm of day and night in Mexico is a study in deliberate contrasts, a society that has never confused the time for working with the time for living, and refuses to let one swallow the other. The morning belongs to movement and necessity. The tortilleria, the mercado, the school run, the commute. In the cities, the streets fill early with the practical choreography of a country getting on with things. In the countryside, the light arrives low and golden across the fields, and the first sounds are those of animals and wind and someone, somewhere already at work before the rest of the world has stirred. The afternoon pivots around the comida, that long, unhurried midday meal that is the true center of the day. Work pauses, shops close, families reconvene. This is not laziness. It is a profound refusal to organize life entirely around productivity, an insistence that the table, the conversation, the warmth of people gathered together belong in the middle of the day, not as an afterthought at the end of it. As evening falls, the Zocalo, the central plaza that anchors every Mexican town and city, comes alive. Couples walk the perimeter in that unhurried loop that has no particular destination. Children chase each other between the benches. Old men play dominoes. Street vendors appear with their carts. The cathedral glows. A marimba band in the towns of Oaxaca or Chiapas sets up near the bandstand and begins without announcement. In December, the posadas begin, 9 nights of candlelit processions through the neighborhood streets, reenacting the search for shelter, ending each night in song and shared food, and the particular joy of a tradition so old it no longer needs explaining. The quiet of the night, when it comes, is not empty. It is full of what the day has given, of meals shared, of music heard, of the slow, sustaining warmth of other people. Life in this ancient and beautiful corner of the world is not without its significant challenges. To speak honestly of Mexico is to hold its grandeur and its pain in the same hands without flinching from either. The gap between wealth and poverty in Mexico remains one of the widest in the world. In the southern states, in Chiapas, in Guerrero, in Oaxaca, where the indigenous population is most concentrated, approximately 3 in 4 people live in poverty. These are the very communities that carry the oldest languages, the deepest traditions, the most irreplaceable knowledge. That the keepers of so much inheritance should also bear such disproportionate hardship is one of the country's most enduring and most urgent contradictions. Organized crime has shaped the geography of daily life in ways that cannot be minimized, controlling movement in certain regions, distorting local economies, extracting a brutal human cost from the communities caught in its reach. The homicide rate, while declining in recent years to around 24 per 100,000 in 2024, remains far too high. The disappearances continue. The grief is real and it is vast. And yet 13 million Mexicans were lifted out of poverty between 2018 and 2024. Minimum wages have risen. A woman, Claudia Sheinbaum, became the country's first female president in October 2024. Water scarcity, deforestation, and the compounding pressures of climate change on the country's extraordinary ecosystems demand solutions that are still being found. These are the vital questions that Mexicans grapple with thoughtfully, loudly, and with a deep, collective sense of responsibility for the country they are still becoming. Mexico exists in a delicate, luminous, and constantly renegotiated balance between the wound and the celebration, between the ancient and the arriving, between the village that remembers everything and the city that is still being invented. It is a place shaped by fire and corn and faith and grief, and an astonishing, tenacious capacity for joy. Here life is not measured in comfort or convenience, but in depth, in the warmth of a table that was already set before you arrived, in the beat of a drum that has never stopped, in the simple, profound, and enduring beauty of a people who have always known how to make something sacred out of whatever the world gives them. It is a living testament to the idea that in a world that rushes constantly forward, there is still a place and a deep human need for a life rooted in the ancient, the communal, and the real.